Hello everybody, this is Ace of Clubs, bringing you another painting video. We're doing part 2 of the Techmarine today. Now you kind of notice that the Marine's a little bit further on than the last time I saw, or the last time we went ahead and did a video. There were some issues during that filming. Most of that footage is just kind of unusable. So I'll kind of tell you what I did in the between. I took a transparent blue color filter and I sprayed it in all the shadows. I wanted to really kind of boost up the contrast, and I thought blue would be a nice contrasting color to that kind of bright candy apple red. But I also didn't want something opaque that would cover up the detail. So you'll kind of see in the shadows on the model that there's this kind of blue, glow or blue filter that's been applied. That's what that is. So what I'm doing here is I am going through and kind of block outlining a lot of the colors that I'm going to be kind of adding in later. I wanted the little gun that he has to be black. I'll be, putting some metal bits onto that, and it's just easier to work up from black with metallics, I find, than to paint over the red. And especially this red, it's kind of because of the when you spray metal metallic paint, it makes the model very smooth, the way that the metal flake lays, and it's kind of difficult to put another color on top of it. This transparent color seems to work pretty good, but you'll kind of notice like I have to keep coming back with thin coats of black in order to get full coverage. It's just because it acts almost kind of like a gloss varnish when you paint metallics on a model. So you just got to be slow, put a layer down, let it dry, and then a second and a third coat will enhance the opacity. So I've gone ahead and I have taken one of his shoulder pads and put Celestra Gray on it, kind of following the normal chapter process in painting a Techmarine. Is one of their shoulder pads is going to remain the normal color of their chapter's armor with their chapter symbol on it, just to number one, make sure they know who they're with. I think in the lore it's something with honoring the machine spirit. So in order to get this red and turn it into a Imperial Fist yellow, I have to layer up Celestra Gray on it, and that it ends up being kind of like a greenish light gray on that color, on that red, and that's going to give us a base to put our kind of initial, like our highest color that we're going to put up is a color called Othwan Gray. It's a very close to white, but on the colder spectrum. I prefer to use that rather than just straight white. Straight white can be kind of chalky on models, so usually Othwan Gray is about as high as I'll end up painting on color value. It's almost, to the eye, it's pretty indistinguishable from white at the end of the day. So basically I'm just going to be going through doing this, blocking in kind of the different important bits that I'm noticing on the models. A lot of it on this model I am going to end up leaving the normal red or the normal candy coat. Eventually I will be doing a power weapon workup on his axe. Typically with Imperial Fists, I end up doing a bright purple into magenta color for power weapons. So we won't see that in this video. That'll be the next one, but just something to look forward to there. Important to, like a lot of my paints are here, I'm using the Othwan Gray on his shoulder pad, especially whites and yellows. You really need to shake those paints up, and if you don't, what ends up happening, they just don't, they end up separating quite quickly. The pigment to make that white and they make really yellows, and a lot of the brighter colors they end up being like thicker pigment grains, and they sink to the bottom of the pots, and also they dry out quite easily. The Ultimate Gray is actually a really nice color in that regard. Doesn't need a lot of maintenance to it, but you'll find quite a lot of different grays and like whites end up settling quite easily. So make sure you give your paints a good shake. I've added small glass beads in areas to my kind of habitual offenders as far as the paints go. The glass beads are not reactive, so they're not going to rust in the paint, and you don't need to worry about it affecting the color. It just ends up adding a little bit of a weight and agitation to shake everything up and get it moving again. And then I'll occasionally as well take a small amount of my airbrush flow improver and putting it in the paint pots with some water, just to add for anything lost over time with evaporation. So I took that Celestia Gray, that same kind of initial white buildup, and I've put it on the Colt Mechanicus look-alike symbol on his shoulder, just to start blocking that in. And I'm going through to kind of his armor joints, where the underlayer under his power armor would be showing. Usually for in general, for a loyalist, I don't know why, but I kind of think of the underlayers for a loyalist should be black. And then Trader Marines should, in general, to me, have like a metallic underlayer. Why? I don't know. Just a reason, internal head logic, at least. It just seems like it would be different. Here I'm adding another coat of the Ulthuan Gray. Again, really thin coats with this white to gray paint, because if you lay it on thick, or if you add too many, it ends up looking chalky, and it looks terrible, and you end up, it's difficult to fix. So you got to be careful with that stuff. It's a very interesting paint. This again, the Ulthuan Gray ends up working better than a lot of other whites and grays, stuff like that. You still got to be careful with it, because it can trick you where you want to keep adding more and more to it, but really what you need to do is give it time to dry, to see if you really do need another layer, or to just see if, again, I'm not using it to go up to pure white. I'm just using it to kind of give me a light color in order for me to put the contrast paint down to make it yellow. I'm not going to end up using it as a white. So I don't need it to be perfect opacity. I just need it to really brighten up that pad of armor and give me something that's not that candy red coating, because otherwise the filter won't work right, the contrast paint won't work. I guess I should explain what I'm saying is I'm calling contrast kind of filter in between. Contrast paints are really transparent. They have kind of like a shade built into the liquid, so when you apply it over a light color in general. Applying it over something dark really doesn't end up, doesn't use the full value of what a contrast paint can do. And what it does is it just puts a kind of a tinting on that light color. So it can be gray, it can be white, and you'll get different effects based on whatever the base color is based on that tinting that you're putting it on. So, you know, if I want a really saturated yellow into orange, I could even paint it over something, you know, like a tan color, and you'd get that effect. If you take that same yellow contrast and you put it over, you know, an area with purple, well, you end up getting brown. So I'm painting the skin tone now for the model. I just figured basic tan flesh base coat right now, just to start, again, putting a color on the model. If I end up going lighter or darker in value, that's fine. I just need to see what that one color looks like, and then I can start making more decisions from there. Overall, I really like this sculpt that I found. Found it on My Mini Factory. I'm not going to go into exactly where, because a lot of the makers would rather not have other parties beating down their door just for copyright reasons. Although I would say this thing is pretty distinct from the normal Techmarine. You could find it under the name Technomancer if you are interested. I like his, like, in the back of his armor, he's almost got like a like samurai armor looking thing coming down from his backpack. It's really quite neat. I think it adds a lot to the model, and then also his servo arms are quite cool. You know, this one was all 3D printed in my my printer. It came as a bunch of different individual pieces, but I think they all came together quite nicely. Although I will say, I didn't realize quite how brittle resin was, and so I've already probably knocked off the servo arms, you know, once or twice, and had to super glue them back together. But they did go back together quite nicely, so I will give it a lot of credit. I think the sculpting, whoever ended up doing that, they did a wonderful job. I quite like this model a lot, and the base was also included in that. So here what I'm doing is doing the Cult Mechanicus symbol. So it's not exactly the Cult Mechanicus symbol, so I'm just doing kind of what it would normally look like. Techmarines are normal Marines that end up going to Mars or a Forge World and learning how to do maintenance and how to perform the rites to fix and maintain the vehicles. So they end up wearing a Cult Mechanicus symbol because they end up swearing allegiance to that to the Adeptus Mechanicus while they're there performing their training. And the symbol is half white and half black in the gears, but it's kind of reversed. So the gears on one side will be black, and that side of the skull will be white. On the other side, the gears will be white, but that half of the skull will be black. So you'll see me kind of blocking that in just a few moments. I'm, you know, making sure the paint has plenty of time to dry, because I want to be able to get good lines on the halves. In the black, I'll be highlighting up with a color called, I believe it's Eshin Gray, a little bit later. Here I'm using the contrast paint. I know that there is one for Imperial Fists. I like this Eye-End in yellow a little bit better, to be honest. So this is what I use for my Imperial Fists. So you'll see it goes right over top of that white, and it's the quickest and easiest yellow that you'll ever see. It's wonderful color-wise. It really coats well, as anybody will tell you working with a normal yellow paint. Very, very difficult. They're some of the kind of worst paints to use just from a painting perspective. They just don't cover worth a darn. This thing, so easy. I'll probably never go back to doing a full 5-layer workup of airbrush paint, or just even hand painting yellow if I don't have to. So here I am. I'm going to be highlighting the Colt Mechanica symbol with the Eshin Gray, just to again give it a little bit of the depth. I want the black to stay in the darkest, deepest areas, and the raised area should be the Eshin Gray. And I'll also go over the kind of ribs in his undersuit with the Eshin Gray as well. Once I figure out exactly how I want to do the guns, I'll come back later with that same Eshin Gray, or it may do Dark Reaper just to give it some differences, but I'm going to do his little chest piece and his little pipes as well with that Eshin Gray highlight. But overall, I'm pretty happy with how this model is, so I went ahead and I coated it with a gloss varnish in order to start doing the washes. And I decided to stick with that blue kind of undercoat color. So I added a little bit of blue dye to my dark wash, as well as the wash medium, in order to just keep it moving. So anybody who hasn't seen my wash video from the Death Guard, in general, I like to go ahead and start low on the model at first, and I will put the wash on the model after I've mixed it up, and then take that same brush, put it in the clean water, and then wipe off the wash off the flat surfaces. So the water will wick off the excess wash, the stuff that didn't end up finding a crack and crevice, something that would normally just end up kind of dulling down the overall effect. And doing it this way really keeps the areas that I want bright, and keeps them bright, and keeps the areas dark. It's super nice, it's super easy to do, it's not difficult. Really just once you do it a couple of times, you'll figure it out. It's quite easy. But yeah, just keep a clean pot of water nearby. Make sure you are frequently cleaning your brush off to do it. You don't want to put wash in places that you can't get it back out of. And if you do make a mistake, just be really quick about it, because this wash, especially with this blue dye, it stains quickly. So you just gotta kind of be quick about it, and you get some really great results. But I'll be doing all the red on the armor with this same blue black color, and I think it really worked nicely. It added some great shadows. Overall, this model, it's kind of really receptive to this wash. There's a lot of cracks and crevices that are in here. A lot of these servo arms, they end up looking really quite cool with the added shadowing from the wash. I think that blue added was a really good choice too overall. I hadn't tried this before. I'm really kind of happy I did, because it added just a little bit of extra color kind of in these grooves and in these crevices that, it's just a neat little kind of effect that if you had just done kind of a black wash, I think, it would have been missing something. So I'll be using Reichland Flush Shade. This is just a shade for the face on the model. I just put a little on my palette, and then I can work as much as I need to on the model himself. It's just a nice shade overall. It's a pretty common one. It's like a brown and red together. And then there'll be one more wash I'll be putting on the model. It's going to be Casandora Yellow for the shoulder pad, just to add that little additional richness to the model. It's a nice, again, a very nice color. A lot of the stuff that GW makes shade-wise, I like quite a lot, although I end up using Army Painter as well. But the Casandora yellow is wonderful. And I really appreciate you guys sticking around with me again. We'll be looking forward to you in part 3 of completing the Techmarine, getting the base all finished, as well as doing the power axe. So, you know, again, if you have any questions, comments, anything that you think would make the video better, I appreciate it. Otherwise, I'll see you on the next one. Thank you very much again. Have a nice day.